What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Love, Heartbreak, Hope. I am King.
I'm Angela. And we're here to talk about the fourth love language, acts of service. If you're somebody who says actions speak louder than words, you probably have acts of service very high on your love language list.
Definitely. I'm one of those people that I watch what people do instead of hearing what they say. Your words don't mean anything to me. It's about how I see you show up.
This is all of the love languages. Remember, it's a language. It's something you learn and get better and more fluent at. You don't just say, oh, this is my love language, and you tap out. You got to learn to give them and receive them and practice them. So this is a great one to learn to be better at, because there's sometimes that a person doesn't need your words. Sometimes they're in a situation, they just need you to do something for them. It shows that you love them.
For sure. And let's give some examples of this. One of these, definitely if you're in a relationship or in a marriage with children. This is hugely one-sided many of the times. You got the mom that has the kids and they're struggling to get the kids fed, to get their diapers changed, to get their school bags ready, to get lunches ready for school, to get homework checked. I mean, more and more and more and more. And as a busy person, it would help tremendously to have a person, rather than saying, I love you, I appreciate you, to come in, to do the laundry, to say, don't worry about it, I got this. That's an amazing way to show up.
Yeah. A big disconnect, usually male to female, is men tend to have physical touch as a higher one, and women tend to have acts of service higher. And there's a huge disconnect. If a woman is trying to show her love to a man by doing all these things for him, packing his lunch and ironing his clothes and, taking care of things that would make his life easier, and she's using acts of service to show her love, but what he really needs is physical touch, she's giving in a language that he doesn't necessarily appreciate or need or want. And she's feeling exhausted because she's feeling like she's spending all this time doing stuff, but it's not the stuff he needs. So that's a really common disconnect in the genders. That, again, is why it's so important to learn your partner's language, because you're going to do half the work and be 2 times more effective if you're speaking to what he needs. Maybe he just wants to have sex a couple more times a week and not have you do these 50 other tasks that are exhausting you. That's easy.
Listen, the love languages. Now, you may be asking yourself, and we probably should have said this earlier in the series, you may be asking yourself, what is my love language? How do I figure out my love language? We will put a link below in the description to point you to the direction of how to take or where to take that test to give you what your love languages are. You may think my love languages is A, B, C. But what you need to realize is that your love languages change as you experience different things in your life.
Yes, which is why it's so important to become fluent in all of them.
So I highly recommend that you go below, that you click on that link, and that you take your test and kind of see where you are, and encourage your partner. Like, it does no good for you to really take it to yourself or by yourself. Take it together and work on those things together. That can be your first act of service together.
Yeah. The acts of service really just show that you put time and thought into what the other person needs, and that you're willing to extend yourself on their behalf. So it's not so much about what that act even is. It could be anything from a back rub to taking out the trash, but everything that you do as an act of service needs to be done with a happy attitude, not any sense of begrudging or this is tiring. It just needs to be given like a gift, joyfully.
And it doesn't have to be, and many times will be, something that you don't enjoy, unless you highly align in so many areas that there's hardly a misalignment or a disconnect. There are going to be some things that you're just not a fan of doing.
How about men going shopping? You always hear like the wife loves to go shopping and it's the worst thing in the world he wants to do. But to her, it would mean so much if he just came along and said yes or no to all the millions of outfits she wants to try on.
And have a little input. Have a little input to, I really like this on you or that on you. Not just a head, no, yeah. Here's the card. No.
What's another one that you see a lot is that would be an act of service that you think one gender to the next would appreciate?
I think cooking.
Okay.
I think cooking is a huge one. Even if you're not a great cook, try, right? Or maybe even if you know that your spouse or your person is cooking and they've just had a strenuous week, try Uber Eats, try DoorDash. Just do something to give that person a little bit of a rest and let them know that they're important to you and that you were proactive in thinking about them.
That's the key to active service, is thinking through what your partner might need that would make their life lighter or show that you care, and then doing that thing at your time and energy expense.
So if you're not getting acts of service, what do you do? What do you do?
I don't know, King. Tell us.
If you're not getting acts of service, that is a part where you need to sit down and have that conversation. Doesn't mean that it needs to be a hard conversation, but you can tell your person.
See our video on hard conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Right up there somewhere. Here's the deal. Sit down with your person and say, lately, I've been overwhelmed in these areas, and I really want to be attentive to you. I really want to be attentive to our relationship. And it would mean a lot to me if you could help me in these areas. Doesn't mean that it has to be all the time. Doesn't mean that it has to be every day. But if you could find a little time in your schedule, a couple times a week, to do these things or to help me on these things, it would just mean the world to me. Something like that. That's what I would say.
I know one thing that King will occasionally ask me is there anything I can help you with? Or is there anything that you need? And that's his way of, maybe he doesn't know exactly what I'm needing, but the intention is there that he wants to serve and show love as an act of service. So that's a really great question to ask your partner, your lover. If you notice maybe they're overwhelmed, or maybe just ask them in general, because it's great. You might find out something by the answer that you were not aware of.
It doesn't have to be a situation where the person gets overwhelmed. I would encourage you to not wait until the person gets overwhelmed, because at that point, it's kind of too late. Now you're making up for something.
And they might be frustrated in how they answer you.
Right. So I would say offer that up often, frequently, and at
proactively.
Proactively at any particular time. And that's always a good positive move for that love deposit into the bank.
I know in my in my marriage, that I would get frustrated because sometimes I would be up to here, just overwhelmed. I had 3 children in 3 years and so busy trying to do 10 things at once. And sometimes he'd be like, well, just tell me what to do. That's not really a great strategy to offer acts of service, because if you can tell, part of being perceptive, like, yes, you do want to ask, how can I help you? But if you can clearly see that a person is struggling with a multitude of tasks, that question shouldn't necessarily need to be asked. Like, if you see someone flailing in the water trying not to drown, you probably should say, like, hey, let me help you, right? Not, is there anything you need? Throw them a life preserver, push out a life jacket if you don't know how to swim, or just get out there and help them yourself. Like, do you have to ask?
Just dive in.
Yeah. So being perceptive is part of this equation. If you're not good at speaking this love language, to just start to notice what your lover is going through. Little things like if you see them walking towards the door with their hands full, an act of service is to open it for them. They don't have, maybe if you're not aware, they should be asking you, please open the door for me. But that's part of tuning in and growing with somebody, is learning to be perceptive and thoughtful to what their needs are. If you see them trying to stir 2 pots at once, like, be like, hey, can I help you? Not just sitting there waiting for them to tell you, how to help them.
Right.
So it's definitely a two-way street between communicating that you do need help and the other partner being perceptive and thoughtful.
It doesn't come down to being a mind reader, but it does come down to being intuitive. If you're around a person enough and you've been in a relationship or two, you kind of know what people need, you kind of know what people desire, and you also know what your gifts and abilities are to bridge that gap. So that's where you show up, I want to say effortlessly, and as men, like, that is your opportunity to lead. You talk about leading and being in charge and being the man. This is your place and this is your time to be the man.
Okay, so 3 things to remember about acts of service. 1, do it with a happy heart. If you're doing it begrudgingly or complaining or eye rolling, that's not an act of service and it's not going to be received as such. 2, be insightful and thoughtful about what that is so that the person doesn't always have to tell you. Or if there's someone not good at communicating, just be mad at you for not doing it. Yeah. So trying to work on being more insightful and thoughtful. And 3, just like any gift that you give, you're not doing it for recognition or thanks. It's great if someone says thank you, but that's not the reason you're doing it. You're doing it to express love and to show love. So when you're doing it, don't feel like you should be waiting around for applause or a thank you or that sort of thing. That's great if you get one, but that's not the reason we give gifts. It shouldn't be the reason we give gifts. Purely for the other person's delight and help and to express the love. It's free.
As soon as you do that act of service that she just mentioned, don't be thinking about it. What you should be thinking about is that next thing in line, that next thing that you can create space to do, that next load that you can help to lighten a bit. We appreciate you tuning in for Acts of Service. We have one more to go in this series, and that is many of you guys' favorite. That is ding, ding, ding.
Gifts.
But as we said, you should be overloaded and loaded with ammunition to supply your person, your partner, your love with every acts of service or every...
Get fluent.
Yeah, get fluent in every love language.
To be an amazing lover, a giver and receiver of love.
Absolutely. So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. Leave your comments below for your challenges or your love of acts of services. Stay tuned for the final video in this series, and we will see you in the next video.